We spoke a bit there, Rob, about Provence, and Johnny gave us the inside line. They take on Soyaux Angouleme, our boys. Where do you want to go? Biggest, well, I don't know if it's fair or unfair to say biggest game, but certainly the highest profile game, I guess, certainly in their recent history.
Well, for both sides, really. But well, apart from the semi-final last year for Provence, maybe. But first time Soyaux and Angouleme have ever been in the barrage or in the Pro D2 playoffs. So this is their biggest game. Unfortunately, it's not at home, but they do have the best away record in the league in the regular season with 7 wins and 1 draw from the 15 away games, which is pretty good going, I'd say, to have lost less than 50.
Yeah.
50% is pretty good, but they are obviously taking on Provence 15 out of 15 at home. What I would say about Provence's home record, it is very good and they are unbeaten, but they've only got 6 attacking bonus points in that. So it's more a case of them squeaking it out rather than running riot like a Grenoble or a Brive. So it's not a foregone conclusion, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess as well, there's Johnny mentioned it a moment ago. There's a potential little bit of lingering, or there could be from last season where did they finish top of the log? But either way, they
Yeah.
were beaten at home, weren't they? And that will potentially sting, albeit perhaps it's a good shot to have had. We've spoken quite a lot about Angouleme this year, but are we going to go beyond the usual suspects in terms of where this game is going to be potentially snuck away from home? Your Masabakas, your Arthur Proulx.
Well, I think it's important to note that we found out yesterday that FR UK on YouTube are going to be showing these games live. So the fact it is these 2 barrage games initially, which is very, very exciting. So we get to see these players, and I think obviously we got a load of players to look out for from Johnny in the interview from the Provence side, which is really cool. Really excited for people to see more of Alex Masibaka, and they can jump on the hype train that we've built up, that we personally started, and also Arthur Proulx, who set up he's not had loads of game time off the bench. Not had loads of starting time recently, but it's still making huge impacts. I think in terms of the game being won and lost, Soyaux and Angouleme have a young squad. They can get, depending on who they put out, they can get a little bit beaten up front. And as Johnny said, Provence have the firepower and they've got a big old pack with some of the big names like the internationals, Isaac Rodder, Thomas Francis, Capelli Peffoletti, the guy at Luced, who I'm not going to try and pronounce his name, begins with W, is an Argentina international. Harrison, and then I think the key thing is Inga now up against presumably George Tilsley at 12, 2 really, really physical 12s. But I think if Soyaux Angouleme can match them at scrum time, and the full strength scrum has gone really well, but it's just whether they can continually win that forward battle. And someone like Alex Masabaka is going to be key to that because of the amount of carrying, explosivity of that carrying. But it actually might come down to someone like Sekeli Nabu, like a big old unit in the second row, wise old head, Motu Matu as well, like a couple of big islanders just in the core of that engine room, I guess. It's going to be fascinating because Soyaux and Angouleme are going to go and play rugby like they have done all year away from home. The previous game between these two sides, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, was 57-45 or something like that.
Yeah, 60-45, I think I had scribbled down here. It was a bit of it was
try fest.
Pretty pretty free and easy.
Can't see it being quite like that. But it's interesting with I don't know if Gopper's going to play, but no Jules Police on, whether they need that kind of someone to steer them around at Provence, whether Soyaux and Angouleme can just go and do an Harlequins or a Northampton, swing the bat and give it a good crack and they've got the players with devastating pace that seem to be able to score from absolutely anywhere. So yeah, it'll be I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, it should be excellent. Now, you mentioned Plisson and Gopper there. I mean, obviously, our
Blitzer's
man
out, isn't he?
Ben Botka has been injured for a little while, and we hasn't we knew was not going to be able to make this one. But Glenat, is it
Yeah,
Corentin
Corentin
Glenat?
Glenat
Has
coming to his own a
actually,
little bit.
yeah, I was going to say, is actually this is not a guy who's now being parachuted in last minute to try and steer them home. And yeah, they've played some very good rugby and been very successful with him at 10. And I think maybe just a little, I don't know, one that that a few folks might be sleeping on in terms of both generally the way he orchestrates play, his goal kicking. Could be interesting, as you
The
said,
other guy, I
particularly
think,
with Peace on off.
yeah, and in one of those sorts of games, another guy, Hubert Texier in the back row at 7, bit more athletic, bit more lithe than the Provence back row. Can they kind of win at breakdown as well? Give them some counter-attacking ball, and that could be quite fun.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Cool. So that wraps up Thursday. Then Friday we have Colomiers hosting Montauban, if I'm not mistaken. Bit of a derby.
Yeah,
And it's been pretty slim pickings for the last game, Colomiers went to the Ernest Vallon, didn't they? And turned
yeah,
over Montauban relatively comfortably and
yeah.
have
First
been
half
in
blitz.
fantastic form, particularly the back half of the year. Do you feel that one's going to script, going to form?
Yeah, I do. I think Colomiers are just in such a rich vein of form. They've got the kind of physicality and the players to get them over the gain line that perhaps Montauban just don't quite have. Like Reynu is just outstanding, as is Caleb Timu in the back row. So Reynu at 12. And I think like Brett Heron started playing well with a bit of a Rosbif lens. They are playing with so much pace. And yeah, I think the way that previous game went was kind of a little bit one-sided for a lot of it. And that suggests to me that with the way that they're playing, it could be they should have enough.
Yeah,
Tuitavuki on the left wing for Colomiers is doing some fantastic things at the moment, and he's been brilliant for them, as well as Marta on the right wing, which may be a name people have heard of because he plays for Portugal. But yeah, I think the big one there is, I guess, the battle of the tens, because the man Jerome Bosviel, 200 points for the season or whatever, an old head, bit of an old school fly half, few up and unders, who knows? But
the
it is home advantage for
Montauban
Colomiers,
spiral
so
bomb. Yeah, I
we
tend
will
to
see.
agree. Yeah, I think I will probably go
Montauban
to
have played some great stuff
script.
this year, but I just think Colomiers are in such a good run of form, and they're flying.
After we've given that glowing endorsement, I look forward to seeing a 40-5 victory for Montauban away from home, as tends to be the case when we predict these things.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, as Rob says, it will all be on FR UK TV on YouTube, which is wicked news. We can have a proper look